It's Monday, October the 7th. Normally I do my fishing reports on Wednesdays, but kind of got out of whack where I've been on vacation, and it took me several days to figure out how to catch fish. But I've seen a lot of champion and charger boats out on the water this past weekend, and they've got the owners tournament coming up this coming weekend. If you're an owner of a charger or a champion, it's a pretty awesome deal to fish. The people at Ulrich Marine Extreme Outdoors and the Power family put on a real awesome event, and somebody in there is going to win a Mercury engine valued over $22,000 for a draw prize. You don't even have to catch a fish to be there. But I believe you still have time to sign up. I think you can still, up till Friday, register for the event. Like I say, it's a real fun event. Tons of giveaway prizes and product at the weigh-ins. So if you own a champion or a charger, you need to get signed up, a chance to win that Mercury motor. Everybody's eligible for it. That's participating in the tournament. But as far as the lake level's right at 913.5. It's been about the same for 2 or 3 weeks. The water temperature this morning, it was a little cooler, and we got another cool night coming, but it was about 72, 73 degrees. But over the weekend, it was really hot. I mean, I found water temperature anywhere from 75 to high 70s. And, for the most part, I think it's a really tough bite, but it's kind of typical for this time of year, late September, early October. A lot of the fish still in summertime pattern. There's some up there dead shallow, and I haven't really found a lot in either one place or the other. It seems like you got to mix it up quite a bit, but some of the ways I've been catching them, there's a pretty consistent drop shot bite and football jig bite. It's by no means fast. It's to me, it's painstakingly slow how slow you got to drag a jig or work the drop shot. But it seems like in the mid-lake areas, anywhere from about 27 to about 35 feet, mainly on your long, flat gravel points, especially if it's got a channel on one side or the other of it. Most of the fish that I've been catching seem to be real close to bottom when I'm fishing the flats like that. The key for me seems to be if I can find shad and fish in the same area. Mentioning the shad seem to be all over the place. They're out in the middle of the lake, pretty high up in the water column. Some areas you'll find them deeper. But when I'm out there on them flats, if I can find, even if the big schools of shad are up to about 15 foot, it really seems to help my bite that's down there at 25 to 30 foot. And you can use a football jig, Carolina rig, wobble head. There's a lot of different baits that'll work. You just need to pick up what you've got the most confidence in. I've been finding that the smaller jigs have been working a little bit better for me. I've been catching more keeper fish on them. I've been using a Missiles micro Iconelli football jig, or like a little jewel peewee jig will work, but I seem to be getting more bites on the finesse style baits or the finesse style jigs out there in them flats than I am the bigger football jigs. But like I said, you can take a Carolina rig with a like a little French fry or a baby brush hog. One thing that I like to do a lot, especially if you find brush out there in them flats, that's just an added bonus. There seems to be some fish in the conservation brush piles. But a lot of times what I'll do, I'll just take my regular drop shot rig. Normally I use a 1/4 ounce weight, but I'll take and put a 1/2 ounce weight on it, and then a little Gamakatsu 1 or 2/0 hook, and Texas rig, a little 6-inch Missiles worm on there, and I'll work that through the brush piles instead of like a big 9 or 10-inch Texas rig worm on lighter line. It seems like when the fishing's tough like this, downsizing your bait, downsizing your line, you'll get a few more bites. Now, I mentioned that bait being scattered all over the place. One way I've been able to catch them is kind of similar to what we do in the wintertime, where them fish start getting underneath them schools of shad. I haven't found them underneath there real heavy, but every once in a while you'll see a fish surfacing out in the middle of nowhere. And them schools of shad I'm seeing out there, I can take a swim bait or like a Demiki rig. This is a missiles bait shockwave, but you can take like a spunk shad, a little 2.8 Kitech or 3.3. This is a Strike King Baby Zero. But any type of little Demiki rig and work it underneath that bait. And I've been finding, you know, that, especially up in the river arms, is working a little better for me out in the middle of the channels. You know, it might be 50, 60 foot deep out there, but the bait's 15 to 20 foot deep, and I'm working a swim bait through them and underneath them, and also a spoon. You can use, if the fish aren't real deep, you can use like a Dixie Jet flutter spoon, the Watson Worldwide spoon, a little bit bigger profile. I like to use a 3/4 ounce slab spoon because I can cast it a mile, and if the fish are deeper, ouch, that little hook got me. But if the fish are a little deeper, I can get it down to them. And normally if you can find that bait where it's over treetops in them channels, a lot of times you can get over the top of them and drop shot, or, you know, vertical jig the spoon over them. Also in the last few days I've caught some fish around the deep docks on a slab spoon and a flutter spoon, you know, flipping it in the stalls, kind of like I say, a lot of the fish are still in the summertime pattern. They're still out there real deep. I really haven't seen where the thermoclines broke up. A lot of the places I've been fishing, seems like it's 25 to 30 foot. I can still pick up a thermocline on my fish finders. You know, normally the smallmouth, when that water starts to cool down, will start showing up a little shallower, especially down by the dam, in that 15 to 20 foot, like on a Ned rig or, you know, small jigs. I have been catching some smallmouth on the finesse jigs, but they've been out there deep, you know, out there in that 20, 25, 35 feet. I haven't found a whole lot that's moved up there shallow, with the exception of in the morning. There's a little bit of a shallow bite. Now today I've caught some fish really shallow on little square bills, and I mean shallow, you know, they're in the mud, but there's not a lot of bites doing that, but there is some better quality fish. With the water being low like this, there's not a whole lot of shoreline cover, but if I can find a laydown or a stump in about 2 to 3 foot of water, there's a good chance it'll have a fish on it. And, you know, places like in behind Baxter and Big and Little Indian, that'll work. Up in Long Creek, up around Yoakum, and up in main Long Creek itself. And there's several places up in the Kings River. And even if you go way up into White, like up towards the Roaring River, the bait seems to be the key. And normally as this water cools down, that bait starts to migrate back in them creeks and pockets. And there is bait there. I just haven't found a lot of fish. I have to cover, you know, a lot of water to get the bites in there. But I've heard some guys talking about, you know, catching fish throughout the day on wake baits and topwater baits. And it's kind of like, you know, a couple weeks ago there was a good decent glide bait bite and topwater bite. And if a person's going to do that, I think you just need to commit yourself to it, tie it on and throw it all day. But a lot of times what you're looking for is rock transitions. And, you know, I think like a 7-inch glide bait, a mag draft, some type of wake bait, or even like a Spro, Cyclone Junior, or, you know, whopper plopper. But the key is you got to cover tons of water, and don't let the bluebird skies and the sun scare you. They will bite it. You know, the last, 4 or 5 days we haven't had hardly any wind. But normally when the fish are up there that shallow, they're up there for one reason, that's the feed. So they will bite it, you know, regardless of the high skies. Now, normally we get a little overcast or rain and they should bite it a little bit better. But, you know, no matter what you decide to do, whether it's out there deep or shallow, there's a shallow jig bite as well around the docks, but you got to be real methodic. And just got to take your time and fish real slow. The jig fish I've been catching haven't been any deeper than 10 feet on the docks throughout the lake, but I got to cover a lot of docks to get a few keeper bites. Another thing you might try is take a chatterbait or a spinnerbait down to the shaded side of some of those shallow docks, especially if there's bait present. Some of the jig fish I'm catching, the jig fish aren't on the bottom around the docks, they're suspended. So you can also take and, pitch a jig in the stalls or behind them around the walkways and swim the jig out. And that's how I kind of got on, keyed me in on that the chatterbait would work, because I was getting some bites swimming the jig as well. But there's a lot of different things that'll work, but just got to be patient. It's just tough fishing. It's a grind, I think, for the most part. But the weights that have been coming in the local tournaments, there's several club tournaments, still taking 14, 15 pounds to win a single day event. Now the weights are dropping fast after that, but still some good quality fish to be caught. So I want to wish everybody in the Champion and Charger Owners Tournament good luck, and until next week, good luck, good fishing.